I'm very pleased to share that President Xi, in our meeting today, has committed to ensuring visa-free access for Canadians traveling to China.
Imagine a single sentence capable of shaking international borders and sending economies scrambling. That sentence came quietly from Beijing. Canadians can now travel to China visa-free for 30 days. Delivered without fanfare, it immediately set off a ripple that Washington hadn't seen coming. At first glance, it seemed routine, just another diplomatic announcement. But beneath it lies a strategic earthquake, one reshaping tourism flows, challenging long-held alliances, and redirecting billions in cross-border spending. Canada is home to almost 2 million Chinese Canadians, many of whom have waited years for easier access to family, business opportunities, and cultural connections. With this new visa-free access, those barriers vanish overnight. On the other side, a market of 300 million potential travelers in China opens up ready to explore Canada without the headaches of bureaucratic approvals. The real shock? Many of these travelers used to pass through U.S. border cities on their way to Canada. Hotels, restaurants, and entire service economies were built around that flow. Now, direct travel to Canada bypasses the U.S. entirely. While Washington tried tariffs and threats, Ottawa quietly built corridors. One country raised walls, the other, pathways. So what does this mean for American border cities, for Canadian families, and for the global balance of tourism and trade? And how did this seismic change come to life? January 16, 2026 will be remembered as a landmark day. Inside the Great Hall of the People in Beijing, Prime Minister Mark Carney met President Xi Jinping, reopening a channel frozen for nearly a decade. No Canadian Prime Minister had visited China in 8 years. During that absence, trust eroded. Arrests, detentions, sweeping tariffs, and trade bans had all but silenced one of Canada's most crucial relationships. But Carney didn't leave with symbolic gestures or vague promises. He returned with a concrete, transformative agreement, a partnership reshaping travel, trade, and diplomatic leverage.
China used to be the largest market for Canadian canola seed. We want to not just return to those levels, but to surpass them. And so I'm pleased today to announce that Canada and China have reached a preliminary but landmark trade agreement to remove trade barriers and reduce tariffs.
At the center of the deal, visa-free travel for Canadians. For the first time, a Canadian passport allows 30 days in China without applications, interviews, or fees. Compare that to U.S. citizens, a $140 application, mandatory interviews, weeks of waiting, and no guaranteed approval. Suddenly, Canadians enjoy unprecedented mobility, and U.S. border cities feel the impact immediately. Canada's Chinese communities, concentrated in Vancouver, Toronto, Richmond, Markham, Montreal, and Calgary, are directly affected. For decades, visa restrictions complicated family visits, business trips, weddings, funerals, and cultural events. Now travel is spontaneous, flexible, and fast. A family emergency? You can fly within days. A sudden business opportunity? You can respond instantly. Travel becomes a natural part of life, not a bureaucratic chore. The ripple effects extend beyond people. Many Chinese Canadians previously transited through U.S. cities like Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, or Detroit to access flights. That traffic supported hotels, restaurants, car rentals, retail, a steady economic lifeline for these regions. Visa-free access eliminates the need for detours, redirecting billions of dollars in spending back into Canadian cities. Tourism from China follows the same pattern. In 2024, over 300,000 Chinese tourists visited Canada, a 43% jump from the previous year. Many combined trips to the U.S., entering through major airports to visit Niagara Falls, Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal. Visa-free access changes everything. Direct flights become cheaper, simpler, and faster, doubling potential Chinese visitors within 3 years. U.S. cities lose that traffic, and the revenue it generates. Timing couldn't be more consequential. Canada co-hosts the 2026 FIFA World Cup with Vancouver and Toronto as host cities. Millions of international visitors are expected, and Chinese fans represent a major source of ticket sales, hotel bookings, and spending. Carney emphasized the World Cup during talks in Beijing, pitching Canada as a welcoming, accessible destination. Visa-free access made that promise tangible. Chinese fans can attend matches, stay in Canadian hotels, and spend freely without ever touching U.S. soil. The losses for U.S. border cities are concentrated and immediate. Seattle Tacoma International Airport, Buffalo, and Detroit have long profited from transit traffic. Hotels, restaurants, and shops are suddenly seeing declining footfall. Local officials report lower occupancy rates, decreased airport revenues, and falling retail sales. Border cities have no federal tools to reverse the trend. Policy decisions in Ottawa and Beijing, made thousands of miles away, directly impact their economies. Service industries that once thrived on visa processing face collapse. Travel agencies, immigration consultants, translators, and document processors, many operating in U.S. border cities, lose business entirely. Travelers now book directly, cutting out intermediaries and leaving local firms scrambling. Visa-free access is only the beginning. The agreement is part of a broader Canada-China strategic partnership. Energy cooperation stands at its core, with Canada planning to scale LNG exports to 50 million tons annually by 2030, heavily targeting Asian markets. Chinese firms hold stakes in Canadian LNG projects, including 15% in LNG Canada. Agricultural trade also benefits. Canola tariffs drop from 84% to 15%, unlocking billions in exports. Lobster, crab, peas, and other products return to Chinese markets. Electric vehicles gain new access. Nearly 49,000 Chinese EVs can enter Canada at a 6.1% tariff, compared to 100% in the U.S. Cultural and educational exchanges follow. Museum partnerships, film co-productions, student programs, and digital collaborations expand as travel becomes easier. Visa-free access anchors these ties in daily reality, allowing families to reunite, businesses to operate efficiently, and students and artists to move freely. Politically, the deal is a win for Canadian sovereignty. After years of tension with Washington, Ottawa demonstrates it can negotiate favorable terms with a major power independently. Trump's leverage diminishes as Canada strengthens alternatives. Threats carry less weight when opportunities exist elsewhere. Visa-free travel is more than convenience. It's proof that Canada can chart its own course on the global stage. This shift also teaches a broader lesson. Pressure applied without foresight can accelerate diversification. U.S. strategies meant to compel compliance inadvertently pushed Canada towards stronger, more predictable partnerships. Visa-free travel is the clearest symbol. Policy becomes movement, agreements turn into daily practice, and strategy transforms into reality. Infrastructure and commerce respond immediately. Airlines add routes, increase frequencies, and explore new city pairings. Airports allocate slots, marketing campaigns promote Canadian destinations, hotels improve services for Chinese travelers, and tour operators redesign packages for direct travel. These investments create long-term momentum that persists regardless of future political shifts. The United States now sits outside this network. American cities cannot offer visa-free onward travel, cannot match Canada's access, and cannot compel travelers to transit through their airports. Local economies lose revenue, jobs, and investment. Meanwhile, Vancouver and Toronto gain. Tourism employment rises. Domestic spending grows. Cultural, educational, and economic ties deepen. Families, students, and professionals move freely, turning policy into tangible, everyday advantage. The outcome? Canada demonstrates strategic foresight and independence. After years of tension with Washington, the ability to secure real, enforceable terms with another global power resonates domestically. Threats are neutralized by alternatives, markets are diversified, and bilateral trust is rebuilt. Visa-free travel symbolizes this shift more clearly than any tariff or trade clause. It reshapes the landscape of tourism, trade, and geopolitical influence. What do you think of Canada's bold move? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay tuned, because this story is only beginning, and the next chapter could reshape North American travel and global alliances.